Hello, this is Alan from Wardale Community Church, and I'd like to talk to you about a study that we'd like to have with you, and that study is concerning evil. And I think it's a very important subject because it helps us to understand who God is, helps us understand man's situation, gives us details about God's plan and purpose. It kind of answers the big why question and what question. Like why everything is the way it is and what is happening the way it is. And it helps us provide also answers to unbelievers who have questions concerning why there is evil in the world with God as He is. And this is, again, just to give us kind of outline where we're going and an overall study so you can get an idea what's happening. And so we're going to first discuss the terms of evil that are described in the Bible, so we can lay out what it means by what evil is, what Scripture says, not develop our own. We'll have also a discussion on the problem of evil, or the so-called problem of evil that's presented in philosophy. We'll also study the beginning of evil in relationship to man in the garden. We'll track that evil through the book of Genesis, highlighting certain aspects of how evil expands. Then we'll do an overall instruction concerning good and evil in the whole of the Bible, kind of seeing how they fit together, each one. We're not going to discuss every place that good or evil is mentioned, but just get an overall when they mention together. We're also going to look at God's purpose for allowing evil generally, and then we're going to get into some specific studies. One particular one, we're going to get to study Habakkuk and the problem of evil there. We'll then move on to Hebrews chapter 2 and 3, where we can see the overall purpose for why Christ came and how man is lower than the angels, all of that. We'll look at that in kind of more of an in-depth way. And then we'll look at the ones in Romans that have some fairly clear indications about evil. Then we'll move on to the discussion on God's sovereignty and man's choice, and when does one begin and where does the other one end. And so we'll have an overall discussion about that. We'll look at some verses related to God using evil generally. We'll see in Scripture how He uses them and how that's part of His overall purpose and design for everything. We'll look at some other verses that relate to God's allowing evil in particular areas like the world, the flesh, and the devil, and how that God has left them here so that we could overcome them and show His overcoming power. We'll move on to the study of the areas of natural evil like disasters and diseases and dying and catastrophes, and all of that related to that area. Then we'll also progress on to an important subject related to Satan and the origins of evil, and look at some hard passages and difficulties. We'll see about his nature, what he does, what he says. We'll look at 3 dialogues, the one in Genesis in the garden. We'll look at the temptation with Job as he talks to God about Job. Then we'll progress into the study of the human mind and its evil and how it's corrupt in its ways of thinking and yet not corrupt in other ways. That'll relate to the knowledge of good and evil, and we'll look at that when we're looking at the origins of evil in the garden. And then we'll move on to the instruction about overcoming evil, particularly in knowing Christ. How knowing Christ changes our perspective and our ability to overcome evil. We'll again look at kind of the free will argument and connection to evil and how that relates to why the fall may have taken place. We'll discuss all of that as best we can. The thing is, at least to try to get as much information as we can gain from Scripture that says about it. And our final study will be related to the final and end of evil from the book of Revelation and how evil will actually be ended by God's design. So with that, that will begin and introduce us to this particular study. I hope you enjoy it and it be instructive and helpful and really help you to walk the Christian life and realize why evil is in the world and have answers to people who really ask the questions concerning why is there evil in the world, and really have a biblical answer, not just an answer. So I encourage you to study through it. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be some hard passages, hard thoughts, longer studies than you may have been accustomed to, but I think it's worth it all. And so jump in and study it. And in some places you'll find that it may be long. You just need to stop, pick it up at a different time. But I think it's a necessary study in understanding why and what is going on.